If you're a pub, venue, or any establishment that has been impacted by the COVID-19 guidelines,
then this is a must to watch.
people, thank you for joining the Lok and Don. I'm with my boy, the Lok.
And I'm with my guy, that guy Don.
So today we're going to be having a deep conversation. We're joined by Velma, who runs the Tudor Rose in Southall. You may have seen recently across the media reports about an incident that took place in the Tudor Rose in Southall, West London. We're here today to hear the side of the story from the venue themselves. Now, before we begin our conversation with Velma, I must inform you that Tudor Rose has launched a campaign to challenge the government's undemocratic attempt to impose the COVID-19 guidelines without first consulting Parliament.
And the heavy-handed use of these restrictions
by the police to target licensed venues in a way that it wasn't intended to. So Velma, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Good for you. Me too.
However it's going to look this year.
Yes, it's going to be a close behind doors
Rolling
Christmas.
with the punches. So Velma, could you tell our viewers a little bit about Tudor Rose?
Certainly. Tudor Rose is a community hub. Essentially, it is spread out over 3 floors, the ground floor being 760 capacity standing, 300 seated, and then a further 220 over 2 more floors.
And just so the viewers not miss a point there, you said the venue has 3 floors.
3 floors.
And the ground floor can take a maximum of how many?
760 standing.
Okay. And the other 2 floors between them can take a maximum capacity of?
An additional 220.
Okay. Thank you. We're just setting the scene. So Velma, on Tuesday the 13th of October, police attended the Tudor Rose venue. Is this correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this was around 6:30 in the evening. And to be precise, at exactly 13 minutes past 6, the police received a phone call from the OYO Mayfield Hotel in Southall. And this is a hotel located maybe 2 to 3 minutes walking distance from the Tudor Rose, would you say?
Yeah, I'd agree.
So it's kind of like located at the side of your building, correct?
Diagonal to us, yes.
Okay. So there was a phone call made to the police, and this phone call that came from the OYO Mayfield Hotel. The conversation, let me read it precisely so I don't miss it. The conversation was that they cited that there's a large rave going on in Southall inside of a large white building. There's also a live band with lots of people and with groups of people coming in and out. That was the report that was given to the police. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, the Lok, do you know where the Mayfield Hotel is located?
I think it's like a couple of yards away.
Now, for me, Tudor Rose Venue is here, and the hotel is over here. Now, I must say that it wouldn't be possible for the hotel to have clear visibility of people who are entering and leaving the Tudor Rose venue. I can say that by just the physical location of the two. Would you agree with that statement?
Most
Velma?
definitely.
So that means if somebody from the hotel had witnessed what they witnessed, they must have either have been inside of the Tudor Rose venue, or they must have been they must have left the hotel and been in front of the Tudor Rose venue, seen what was happening, and either phoned the police directly at that time or phoned the police when they returned to the hotel. Was there any members from that hotel? Did any members of that hotel, attended the Tudor Rose on this day?
Not to my knowledge.
And how can you be sure of that?
because it was a specialist event, 3 weddings, in fact, pre-booked, and they were all from the Irish community.
You've kind of explained there what event was happening inside of the Tudor Rose, and it was a wedding or 3 weddings that was happening.
3 weddings, as I explained. Venue is spread over 3 floors, and
So,
we normally have more than 1 wedding event at any given time.
okay, so you had 3 weddings going on across the 3 floors. Can we ask what was the maximum capacity of guests for each wedding on each floor at the time?
At that moment in time, 15 per wedding, and we had children additionally, under 11.
So you was expecting on that day a maximum of 15 guests for each wedding?
Yes.
As per regulation.
Regulations were they'd move from 30 to 15.
Okay.
You had the correct capacity for the regulation.
I believe so.
Now, as we explained, the police were called to your venue. Could you explain to us what happened when the police attended your venue?
Yes, the police attended our venue and they entered from the front entrance and asked us what event did we have running, and we explained what was happening. They said they'd had a report that we had a lot of people in here, and they took the assumption from the phone call that we had approximately 150 people in the venue.
So when you say the police took the assumption, did the police not do a head count of how many people was in the venue at that time?
No head count.
Okay, you must have had a tracking of people coming into your venue.
Yeah, of course, we have our security hold a clicker.
Okay, so at that precise moment that the police entered your venue, how many people had entered the venue on the clicker?
According to the clicker, 43.
So, okay, so let me get this straight. So at the time that the police entered the venue, on the clicker, you had 43 people that had come into the venue.
Yes.
So that had been counted to have come into the venue.
Yes.
And were these people both adults and children?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 43 people, adults and children, that had entered the venue, and you was expecting, I guess, a maximum of 45. So how comes the police concluded that there were over 150 people in the venue at the time?
Not quite sure, to be perfectly honest, because they didn't do a head count. They made the assumption based on the reported phone call.
Okay, so the police is now in the venue. What exactly happened whilst the police were inside of the venue on that day?
Once they obviously identified themselves at reception, we explained the wedding parties that were here. They then asked us to clear the building completely because they believed there were more people in the venue than there were supposed to be under COVID-19 regulation and guidelines. So we started to clear the people out, which didn't take very long. There weren't that many people. We also had to speak to the other wedding parties to tell them that they weren't able to continue or to even start their wedding reception. And then the police changed it and said that we were allowed to keep a maximum of 15 people, including children, on the venue, on the premises, to finish their celebrations.
So let me get this straight. You had to stop one wedding party and you had to cancel a second one that hadn't started and only keep one going. Was the instructions given to you by the police at that time?
Initially, yes. Yes.
I don't know about you, Thelok, but if I had my wedding stopped, especially when I thought, I had the maximum amount of people, I'll be pretty upset.
Listen, pretty upset is putting it in a nice way.
The travelers community must have been extremely upset with you that they had to stop their wedding, even though before you would have explained to them that you can only have a maximum of 15, which they adhere to. So for you to now say to them, look, I'm going to have to stop your wedding or or even cancel it before it even began, they must have been quite upset with you.
I can't begin to tell you. It was awful. It was absolutely awful having to explain to two brides, the family that was existing and already here, because obviously we thought initially the police had told us we had to clear the whole building. And then they changed that and said we were allowed to keep one party of a maximum of 15 till the end of their celebrations.
What did they do when you cancelled their wedding?
Well, to be perfectly honest, they were very amicable. One of the fathers got up on the stage and asked everybody if they could leave, given that the police had arrived and they were saying that the venue was going to be shut down. And obviously, where he's one of the fathers in the community, he was able to enable everything to happen very quickly. And it was quite swift of everybody leaving.
Jeez, if that was me, I don't know how I would take it. The reaction was good, isn't it? It's a good reaction.
They were really helpful. They really were. And I felt awful at the time.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how I felt. I just had to do as the police told me and tell them how it was. It could have been a lot worse, to be honest.
That's what I mean.
Could have turned into a riot.
That's what I mean.
People not being able to have a wedding.
Of course.
They've already got married.
Especially the travelling community, they're big with their weddings.
Definitely.
So for their wedding to get cancelled.
It's a massive celebration, the way they celebrate.
All right. You know what? I have to salute Dad for that, because I think that was a very brave and courageous thing that Dad did there. So as far as you know, when those two wedding parties left Tudor Rose, was that basically the end of their wedding on that day?
Yes, it was, so far as Tudor Rose, but they were booked into Meffield Hotel. So
wait, OYO Meffield Hotel?
Yes.
Well, the same people that actually made the police call?
Yes.
Jesus
exactly
Christ.
The same hotel.
I
the wedding
smell
parties,
something.
they'd filled the hotel.
I smell something, and it's not fish, Don.
So let me just try and understand this.
Goat.
Well, let me try and understand this in my head.
Or jerk chicken.
So let me try and understand this in my head. There was a phone call made to the police by the OYO Meffield Hotel about there being an event in your venue that had a live ban, was basically against COVID regulations. However, the guests that were attending your venue were staying at the very same hotel.
Yes.
Is that what you've just said?
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
Have you ever been slapped by a cold fish?
I guess that's what it must feel like.
I bet you it felt worse than that. And obviously I am aware of it, because one of the fathers of the bride, who I spoke to after, a few days later, told me that they stayed at the hotel, they were booked at the hotel, that they ended up going back to the hotel and drank the hotel dry, virtually.
Well, you know what?
What can I say?
Wait.
It's disgraceful.
So what you're telling us is that the guest that had the weddings here was booked over there. When they left here due to the incident that venue made the people, well, they left here, they went over there, and the party must go on. And they carried on the party
Obviously,
there.
I wasn't there, but this is what I've been told.
Listen, I believe that, but that is cold.
I believe that the source it came from was telling the truth.
Yeah, because if you've cancelled my wedding, and if I had somewhere else to do it, I will obviously
look for the next available place.
Well, they were booked in. They were booked to stay at the hotel anyway.
You know, whatever opinions we may have of that, let's focus back on what actually took place inside of the Tudor Rose. So what further actions did the police actually take against the venue on this day? After
the venue was cleared and some of one wedding party stayed, the police cautioned me. Well, actually, the police had cautioned me at the front door when they came in initially, and we believed that was it. So the wedding party, what was left, were allowed to continue when the police finally left. They also kindly left us with 2 police officers on every door, entrances and exits until close of business at 10 o'clock, and returned then to us at around 9:30 to say that after speaking to their supervisor or their senior authority, that they would be possibly taking further action.
So hold on. So after you cleared out the other 2 wedding parties and you was left with just the one with 15 guests, the police left you 2 officers outside of your venue.
Outside each door.
Outside each door of your venue.
We didn't ask them to.
But they did.
But they did.
Okay.
So taxpayers' money.
And on top of that, they returned back a few hours later to then have the second conversation with you.
That's right.
So I would have thought they returned back because they wanted to make sure the rest of the event continued in the way they had left. But they had 2 officers there already to keep tabs if that was the...
They had 8 officers.
8. Each.
They had 8 officers.
Each exit. 2, 4, 6, 8.
So then the return visit was specifically to provide you with the information that they did.
Yes, to tell me that they've spoken to their superiors and that they would be writing to us in due course.
So when did you hear from the police again after they left the venue for the second time?
We didn't hear from the police directly. We heard from our licensing solicitor the following Monday, which was the 19th of October.
Wait, hang on. If you heard about this from your solicitors on the 19th, we all saw the news report from as early as Thursday the 15th of October. Now, viewers, you can see the news report on the screen right now. The article I'm showing you was actually directly from the BBC. So the BBC...
Was it Thursday the 16th or 15th?
Thursday the 15th, I said.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what you can see on your screen right now is from the BBC. So the BBC broke the news that there were more than 100 guests congregated in breach of coronavirus restrictions at the Tudor Rose in Southall, West London. And they also said that the venue owner has been reported and could face a fine of up to £10,000. I also took liberties at the time to go through the London Met's Twitter account, and I did also see the actual video on their Twitter account, and basically they stated on their Twitter account the same words or the same language that the BBC stated. How did it make you feel seeing this news report?
Well, it was maddening because, first and foremost, the Met Police's Twitter feed actually said they had already fined us £10,000.
That's what I was going to say.
Which was not true. I'd been cautioned, as I explained earlier on, saying that they would write to me in due course. But they didn't tell me what action they were taking. I wasn't told I was being fined £10,000. So it was, I was shocked. And obviously upset about it as well, because it was sensationalised. It really was sensationalised. And we tried to contact the Met Police press office, for them to confirm the story had come from them. But actually they didn't respond to us.
All right, so let me take you back to the letter that your solicitor wrote to you. Or was it a letter, or did they speak to you?
No, contacted us by telephone.
By telephone. Okay, so what did the solicitor say to you when they contacted you?
That the Met Police were intending to take out an expedited review of our premises licence on the basis of serious crime and disorder, with the intention to completely revoke our licence and close our premises permanently.
For the Met Police to take an extradited review, serious crime and disorder must have taken place at the venue?
Those are the grounds on which an expedited review can be undertaken. What has to be satisfied is that a senior police officer must have the grounds to say that serious crime has taken place on the premises.
Are you sure you didn't miss out something in the details of what happened on the day when you was
Serious
explaining
crime.
it to us?
Being
Missing out something like,
serious crime being
if a wedding is serious crime, then that's what took place, because what I explained to you earlier on is what happened.
Well, to be honest, I want to now know what actually happened during the hearing, because you did have a hearing, correct?
Yes, we had the review.
And what happened?
It was deemed that nothing unlawful, there was no serious crime, that part of the actual review or the certificate was not met, which effectively makes the certificate unlawful. But yes, we were in breach of COVID-19 regulations and guidelines.
All right. Well, thanks for clarifying that. So there was no serious crime or disorder found, but you, like you said, you had breached COVID guidelines and regulation. So what exactly was you found to have been in breach of COVID guidelines or regulations?
Well, our wedding party were taking photographs, so they were all together. And as I was told at the time of the police attending, that they should have had a mask on. Anybody who gets up from the table should have a mask on. So the police had informed me that those that were stood there, the few people having their wedding photos taken, were to wear a mask, because they weren't seated at the table as we do for food and drinks. And I actually said, well, I apologise, but actually that is what we do. I'm not going to ask a wedding party to put a mask on to take a wedding photograph.
Sorry, viewers.
Wow.
That sounds madness.
Wow.
So wait, so to take
15 people. First of all, they put down a wedding party to
Yeah.
15 people, and then within those 15 people, they want you not to even be close to each other for wedding pictures.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if there's only 15 people at your wedding, it's bound to be very, very close bubbles that is at that at that wedding. Like you the two mothers or fathers and
Bro.
maybe brothers or sisters.
COVID has
and that's it.
turned the government ridiculous.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think the police struggled to clarify exactly.
Was the police wearing masks that day?
Not all of them.
Well,
But as I was just saying, I feel that the police struggled to clarify what is the law, or should I say, what are the guidelines and regulations? Because obviously COVID-19 has spread very fast through our country, as it has through the rest of the world. And the rules are changing daily. And if the police can't be up to speed with it, I'm sorry, I'm not excusing myself as a premises being in charge of the premises. But what I'm saying is how are we to keep up with current guidelines, regulations?
that changes every second.
Yeah, that are
Done.
changing daily.
This sounds a bit like me. Change my mind every second.
Okay.
The government started to sound a bit like me. I should run for London mayor.
You should.
Shit.
Well, to be honest, for me, I don't believe in the effectiveness of these guidelines, because there are a few which I question how effective they are, especially that guideline about if you're in a restaurant or in a venue, as long as you stand up, as soon as you stand up, you need to wear a mask. Whereas when you're sitting down, you can not wear a mask. So if you're eating, you have mask off. I was in a restaurant the other day, and everybody's sitting down, eating, spreading COVID. But then a few people will get up to use the loo and they won't have their mask on. So
because it's absolutely disgusting. When you're eating, all the food is going around your mouth. Then you're going to put the mask back on. Anyways, just...
Well, this is what I'm saying, Delok. So what I'm saying is, first of all, I don't see the difference between being in a venue, sitting down and standing up. But secondly, if you have COVID and you've gone into a venue, whether you're sitting down, you're standing up, you're still spreading something. Mm-hmm. That's what I think, anyway. Yeah. Secondly, like I said, I've been in a few restaurants over the past couple of weeks where many people are standing up and using the loo without wearing the mask, and nobody is kind of like there to tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. Everybody just understands when you're entering the venue, you have your mask on. After you've sat down, you take your mask off. And to be fair with you, after you sat down, everybody does what they like. Some people will put their mask on when they stand up to use the toilet. Many others won't. So my thing is, in that case, all those venues I've been in, they've all been in breach of the COVID guidelines.
And that's because it's very, very difficult to enforce. You can't expect your patrons to sit at a table when you're earning money from them and be saying, put your mask on, take your mask off, stand up, sit down. That's not what an eating experience is about, or any kind of entertainment experience is about. You don't want people to come out to enjoy themselves, to not enjoy themselves, because you are going to throw at them so many rules and regulations.
And you know what? I thought of something, but then whilst I was thinking of that thing, I thought of something else. So meaning, where you was at the restaurant, they were selling substantial meal. But then again, in a wedding, what's happening? There's a substantial meal. So either way, there was still difference with a restaurant, and here there's absolutely no difference.
Yeah, well, that funny enough, that second guideline you've just said was actually a new guideline. That guideline came about you making sure you have substantial meal before being served alcohol. Mm-hmm. That's a new guideline that came about after this incident.
Wow, changing
every second. But at the time, the guidelines were actually 6 at a table. And they have to be served at the table, everything, food and drinks.
And you followed that guideline, but the only guideline you didn't follow
wearing a mask to stand up.
That's
correct?
Right.
Jesus.
So if any of our patrons were standing, they weren't told they had to put a mask on to go to the bathroom or to do anything else. Obviously, the majority of the time they're at the table, but we didn't enforce it. I'm not going to say we did, because we didn't. Because as I explained earlier on, what element of enjoyment is there?
You already got 15 people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. And you keep saying 15 people, and I like the way you said 15 people, because it's 15 people at a private venue. Now, I've said to you, I've seen many other venues who are not privately run broke these guidelines because everybody stands up without masks. Now let's get to the point that these are guidelines, because they are guidelines. They're not law, right? Because if I've stood up in a restaurant to go and use the loo, the owners cannot tell me I'm breaking the law, because it's like a suggestion, like a politeness, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
kindly, can I kindly ask you, sir, to put on a mask? I will kindly disagree and decline your kindness.
Right. The worst that can happen is you throw me out, I guess. But it's not, the point we're getting at is not law, is it? These guidelines, they're not law, correct?
No, they're not laws. They are regulations and guidelines.
So this is why you've launched a campaign, and you're asking for pubs, venue, or any establishments that are impacted by the COVID-19 guidelines to get behind you and support you.
Yes, that's what we want. As you said, pubs and licensed premises, and actually everybody, because I feel that everybody is affected by this issue.
So can you tell us a bit more about this campaign?
So the reason we have launched this campaign, as you will see on the screen, is to enable us to undertake a High Court action in the form of a judicial review, challenging the government's undemocratic attempts to impose COVID-19 restrictions without consulting Parliament in advance. And the heavy-handed use of these restrictions by the police to target unlawfully licensed venues in a way that it was never intended.
How much are you looking to raise with the pledge?
Well, initially we need to raise about £10,000. We've obviously already put in a fair amount of money ourselves, nearly £10,000 ourselves. We need another £10,000 to take us to the point that we can actually put the papers into court. And all said and done, we're looking for somewhere in the region of £40,000.
You said initially you was looking to raise £10,000, but now you have put in £10,000.
We've already put in 10,000.
And now you realise you need more.
No. It's not that we didn't. We realised we knew we needed more money. We got so much information together ourselves with the help of a couple of QCs and some legal representatives and our licensing solicitor. But we were already aware we would need more money to take it further.
So you're doing a pledge here to raise up 40,000. You've already put in around 10,000 of your own funds.
Yes.
I don't know about the luck, but the question that comes to my head is, why on earth are you putting this extra burden on yourself right now to take on this pledge? Because the matter has already been sorted and it's coming up to Christmas. So why is it that Tudor Rose, are taking it upon yourself to challenge the COVID-19 regulations?
Because it isn't the end of it, and it isn't just about us. There are other venues up and down the country that are suffering the same plight, but actually these are about all licensed premises. They're being crippled right now. A lot of them are going to lose everything. It's their livelihood. And at the end of the day, the point that I made quite clearly at the beginning is that these are regulations and guidelines. They're not laws. And while I appreciate that, COVID-19 is a serious thing. At no point think that I'm taking it lightly. But you can't, it's not fair or right for the government to put us in a position where they cripple a specific area of business, i.e. hospitality and licensed premises, namely pubs and bars. And, this is a large percentage of business. They employ over 3 million people in this country. They bring in over £1 billion in revenue. They contribute to the tax system around about 35 million in taxes. It's a big chunk. We should have a voice. We should be treated fairly.
So I think you've actually raised up your voice today. And to be fair, what you are doing, I have to give my utmost respect to yourself and your venue, because this is a lot of money you are putting in to this yourself. And also it's for the right reasons, because COVID-19 has been a very, very difficult challenge for everybody, really. I think Boris Johnson referred to it as the biggest threat this country has faced since the World War. I think with such a big threat, it's very important for rules and laws not to be confused. If you're imposing guidelines, it's very important for the public to be aware of whether these guidelines are your guidelines or whether these guidelines are law. Otherwise, there's a grey area, isn't it?
Absolutely. And even then, laws, things that go through laws, go through parliament, it takes time. They don't just tomorrow change in every second. All these things takes time to filter into that for it to become laws. Not today I'm waking up and saying, yeah, this is the law. It changed from a guideline to a law every second, and they're flipping it.
Well, and that's exactly the reason for Parliament, because we don't want anybody to misuse the law. We want that when every law is made, it is gone through Parliament, so all of the correct representatives who we voted for can discuss it. or who we've placed in charge to run the country can discuss it and decide whether it is right for the country or not. And on this occasion, that hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't.
Thank you, Velma, for taking your time out today to share your side, yours and the venue side of the story. I would like to say for myself that I have members of my family who are in the Metropolitan Police, and I understand the difficulties the police have to enforce everyday laws. Also, I guess I would say, you being an ex-military personnel, you are a law-abiding citizen most of the time. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct.
Okay. So, you know, we've, of course...
A true veteran.
You are a
true
veteran. So we are in support of this pledge, I'll be honest, because for me, I think it's important, as I said, to distinguish laws and guidelines. And we hope you also support Tudor Rose Venue and support the pledge. Velma, if people would like to find out more about Tudor Rose and more about or get in contact with you, how can they do that?
They can do that through Crowd Justice, which is www.crowdjustice.com. They can go to our Twitter or Facebook pages, or they can call the venue.
And if they wanted to go to your Twitter, Facebook pages, what's the handles? Because there might be
at Tudor Rose Venue.
At Tudor Rose Venue, yeah? Okay. So we have all the handles at the bottom. We'll also have in the description box how you can get onto the pledge and pledge.
And please support.
So from the Lockdown and Tudor Rose Venue and Velma, we wish you a safe and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I don't even know the words I'm gonna say. Gotta find the best French